Okay, so we have Joshua Terry, and he's going to be speaking about the effective use and implementation of social media marketing in quantity surveying profession. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Crafford. As Dr. Crafford mentioned, my name is Joshua Terry, or you could find me online as at Mr. Joshua Terry, either on Instagram, on Twitter, or on Snapchat. So you may have guessed, my topic today is the effective use and implementation of social media marketing within the quantity surveying profession. Now, before I start, let me just ask you a question. Is social media just a trend? Quite frankly, no, it's not. It's a fundamental change in the way we communicate, and it's here to stay. Now, if any of you have been on Facebook before, you would have heard of Farmville. It's that annoying online farming community that you get stupid requests from all the time. Now, what you might not know about Farmville is that in the US last year, there were more virtual tractors sold than real ones. Some other interesting facts about social media: that only 14% of people trust advertising, but 90% trust recommendations via social media. Another fact is that 53% of millennials would rather lose their sense of smell than technology. More people own a mobile device these days than a toothbrush. Grandparents are now the fastest growing demographic on Twitter. Those are people between the ages of 55 and 64 years old. And that 50% of the world's population is now under 30 years old. So why is that important? That's important because 96% of millennials have joined a social network. Let me introduce you to the current gap. A fully developed social media program is a completely integrated communications mechanism that amplifies the impact of every function within an organization by leveraging the power of human networks via social networking platforms. Now, quantity surveyors are synonymous for not marketing their services, and it is safe to say that the QS profession isn't broadly known to the general public. This is due to insufficient research being done on marketing, and the marketing that has been done is simply not being applied in practice enough. My resolution to this is social media marketing. It is inexpensive to implement and has far greater influence these days than traditional marketing methods. By using some social media marketing tools and identifying a social media marketing strategy that will be tailored to the quantity surveying profession, I believe this can be done. So the purpose of my paper is then to determine the knowledge that quantity surveyors have regarding social media marketing, to highlight the advantages of using social media as a marketing tool for quantity surveyors, to develop a social media marketing strategy that will be suited for the quantity surveying profession, and ultimately to discover if social media is in fact a viable marketing option. I had to have a look at some literature first, and I broke my literature into 4 parts. First would be what is social media, secondly is social media channels used, thirdly would be social media marketing strategies, and then social media metrics, determining your return on investment, which is what everyone wants to know. So we have a look at first what is social media. Said by Lon Safko, the best way to define the term would be to break it up. Social refers to the instinctual need that humans have to connect with other humans. We have been doing that in one way or another since the species have begun. We have a need to be around and included in groups of similar like-minded people whom we can feel at home and comfortable with, that we can share our thoughts, ideas, and experiences. Now, media is what we use to make those connections with other humans by using the internet as a source of connection. That is what social media is. Now, having a look at some social media channels. There are 7 predominant channels that social media can be broken down into. These are the following. Firstly, social networks. That can be best described as Facebook. Secondly, we have blogs such as Tumblr, wikis, which is Wikipedia, podcasts, which can be subscribed to on Apple iTunes, forums for discussions, content communities, such as YouTube, which is predominantly for video and photo, and then microblogging, which is a combination between social networks and blogs. And the leader in this these days is now Twitter. Some further literature. I've identified the best possible social media strategy that QSs can use in order to it, and that's a 5-step process. Firstly, you would have to analyze your existing media within the business. Also, by analyzing the media in your business, you need to have an idea of a set goals that you should use. If you don't have goals set out, then you will never know what to obtain. Secondly would be to determine your strategy. A strategy that would be best suited for yourself and your company. Thirdly would be to integrate those strategies within every aspect of your business. Then you have to identify the resources that it would require to implement that strategy, and then eventually you would have to implement it. It is recommended also to measure that by using some of the social media metrics in order to identify if you have achieved what you have set out to initially. So we will look now at some social media metrics. This is determining your return on investment. The social metrics used to determine successes are the ones that make sense for your business, that you can tie back to your marketing bottom line. There's no specific one for everyone. It has to relate to your business specifically. Now, there are certain equations that can be used to determine this. Firstly, it's your social media ROI. This is getting your social media return on investment. This is identified by the efficiency that you have in terms of analyzing how well it has been taking place. You can use this following equation, which seems to look a little different to how it was earlier. Anyway, next will be your post engagement rate. This is how well your audience engages with your post to determine if that post was in fact successful or not. These are just two of some of the many equations that are out there that you can use to identify how successful your social media activities are. Now, we couldn't just look at literature. We had to make use of methodology as well. And a study that was taking place, I used a partially mixed sequential dominant status of design. It's a bit long-winded, but what that is, it's a two-phase design that is sequential in nature, that leads to emphasis to either the qualitative or the quantitative part. In my case, the quantitative took the emphasis as the more important part. What this is essentially is I initially did a qualitative study with a set of social media marketing professionals. I interviewed them, and the confirmation of their participation was done telephonically. I then emailed to them a preset set of questions, and then interview dates were arranged. In terms of the interviews, 2 of them were personal, as they were located in Port Elizabeth, and 2 of them were done via Skype, as they were across South Africa. All 4 of the interviews were done were voice recorded in order for accuracy to be obtained, and then their professional advice was tabulated. I used that advice to construct a questionnaire, which was my quantitative data. This was sent out to a database of owners and quantity surveyors, and they were emailed, addressing them each personally. A cover letter was emailed to them that are linked to an electronic-based web survey. The survey contained short questions and long open questions. The data from this survey was then converted to Excel and done for analysis to require then results. Our questionnaire was broken down into 4 predominant sections. This was demographics, the general perceptions of social media, the knowledge they have of social media, and social media marketing implementation. As my demographics go, I emailed 982 registered QS and firm owners. Of that, I had 35 respondents, leading to only a 4% response rate. Not many were interested in the topic at hand. In terms of gender, 17% of my respondents were female, and 83% of those were male. Further demographics. The geographic region that was mostly obtained was from Gauteng, 43%. Qualification, most of the respondents had an honours degree in quantity surveying, and the predominant age category was between 50 and 59 years. Further demographics, the general perceptions that they had were that they agreed that no, 66% agreed that no, their services do not sell it automatically anymore. Supply, 74% agreed that the supply of quantity surveying services is currently greater than the demand. 97% agree that marketing is not a wasteful activity. And 91% were more willing to engage in marketing if it didn't require a substantial cost. However, 61% also agreed that social media is in fact a viable marketing tool. However, 63% had never used it before. And 63% would not be willing to pay money on social media ads. Now, the next was to determine the knowledge of social media of the quantity surveyors who have heard of the certain platforms. 100% have heard of LinkedIn as a social media network before. Surprisingly, however, Facebook 94% said they've heard of that, which resulted in 3 out of my 35 respondents saying that they've never heard of Facebook as a network before, which is very hard to believe. Twitter was 91%, also with YouTube at 91%, and then followed by Instagram with 86%. In terms of business use, only LinkedIn and Facebook was used by the respondents, and for LinkedIn was 40%, and Facebook a little bit more at 54%. Now, in terms of the quantity survey personally, 66% of the respondents say that they use social media personally. However, the majority, being 29%, only spend between 0 and 5 minutes on that per day, and that only 6% of my entire respondents spend more than an hour a day on social media. This basically resulting that the knowledge of quantity surveyors of social media is in fact poor. Further studies I've gone through to determine the implementation of social media within the business. I asked a few questions that would gather this information. 11 of the 35 respondents stated that they have a visual written marketing plan within the business. Only 9 of these had social media marketing activities within this plan. 8 of those had a Facebook page for the business. And of the 8, 3 of them had business coming directly from the Facebook page. Now, it was unanimous that word of mouth marketing was the means that quantity surveyors used to market their service. 78%, however, agreed that social media has the power to amplify word of mouth conversations. 72% agree that social media is becoming a necessary marketing tool. 93% agree that having an online presence is in fact beneficial, and 80% agree that having a social media channel to their business would make their firm more accessible. However, this being said, only 32% conduct quantity surveying specific marketing research, which results in why the implementation of social media is poor. So as a conclusion, social media is a new force that has to be taken into consideration. It's no longer becoming a once-off initiative. Instead, it's going to become an integrated tool in every business. In every marketing and communication strategies have to be implemented by the QSs. It can also be concluded that quantity surveyors agree that marketing is important, but they do not believe that it is important for the quantity surveying profession. They also agree that social media is in fact a viable marketing method, but the majority of them have never implemented it before, and the majority of them do not believe that it's worthwhile them spending their money on. Further conclusions would be for the quantity surveying community, social media is a medium which is still very much in its infancy. I do believe that in the future it will be used, but for now the remedy for that would be to go back to the beginning. Just to develop a sound strategy, to clarify their objectives carefully, as well as clarifying their audience. And then they can consistently execute a clearly targeted campaign in which they can get to market their service. As my recommendations go, an integrated strategy with identifiable and measurable goals is absolutely important. I recommend personally that quantity surveyors make use of a blog in terms of where they can illustrate industry-specific data, which they can write about and clarify. And if they do that well, they can become different and separate themselves from the rest of the profession, thereby establishing dominance in this. I would suggest that they require people to leave their contact details as a form of payment to acquire this data and their information. This by gaining a database of people who may be interested in the specific topic, and then they can make more real-world connections with this, and therefore perhaps gaining more business. And then lastly, I absolutely recommend that social media platforms such as a company Facebook page and a Twitter account are used as driving tools to get people towards your blog or towards your website. Now, according to social media professionals, hard sell marketing is no longer the way that people go around marketing, and is no longer appreciated by our generation. Therefore, you have to give something back to the community in order to market your service as well. By using the above-mentioned recommendations, quantity surveyors will be meeting the new marketing climate by giving back to the community. And by doing this, I do believe that they can receive a positive return. Thank you. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Well done. Any questions?
No, none really. I mean, excellent presentation. The strategy that you're coming up with is pretty good. To have some kind of blog feature around your company and then to point people there with what's going to happen. So, in your generation's language, #excellent.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Ronnie? Anita?
I enjoyed the presentation.
Thank you.
Just in the beginning when you started with your facts and you had the strategy that you identified from the literature, you didn't state where the people came from, what was the origin.
Okay. There wasn't a specific origin. I was just from all the literature I got it from, I compiled her.
So it's different.
So it's different studies to compile into one to be best suited for the quantity surveying profession, yeah.
And then the other thing was that most of the respondents were between 50 to 59 years, so it's the older managers.
Yeah. That was sort of expected because it was targeted at more firm owners and QSs. So it was expected for it to be an older demographic.
This struggles actually led into my question, which was I was going to start with that and then say, were there some younger owners who responded?
There was.
And if so, there's obviously they would have been more knowledgeable.
Yeah.
Can you perhaps in your study, if you haven't, do a correlation so you can show
Between the younger.
relationships?
There was a difference between the age. I don't show it at the moment. There was a difference between the age groups. It wasn't surprisingly. It wasn't very much though.
Right.
So even the younger generation was. Yeah.
Well done.
Thank you.
Prof. Maroon?
Excellent, Josh.
Thank you.
Tell me something. What is a combination of visual material plus a voice-over, where you have a commentary
Yes.
associated with the visual material? What's that called in your language?
I suppose that could be classified as a podcast. So you could have, for instance, slides running, and then instead of the person presenting it physically, they could just record their voice over it, and that would be a podcast.
Okay, now let's take that a step further. Let's say that there is a particular topic in the press, in the public domain,
Yes.
that I feel very, very strongly, this is a comment aside, that the quantity surveyors, who do they speak to? They speak to everybody else about it, although it has to do with the construction industry, except the QS. And I feel that particularly looking at the association side, which is, as I said earlier, the professional club, whoever wants a comment on the price of bricks, or the increase in the fuel price, or whatever it might be that affects us, we know what our components of risk are, should go to the president of the association or the executive director there and ask them for comment. And that they can actually, a practice can do that, and that they can be represented live in response to a sort of interview situation. Don't you think that would be?
That's great. I would recommend a forum for that then, where maybe perhaps the ASAQS could set up a forum where a topic could be raised, and the forums allow people to comment on it as it goes on. So someone could perhaps leave their suggestion, and that would lead to an online discussion where people wouldn't be location based, or be across Africa, which could yield good results, I think.
Yes. Now, when you take these state-funded projects that have huge budget overruns, and you take an issue like the discounting of professional fees, that's another topic, where our council president could be interviewed. And not for weeks on end, it won't appear for very long.
Yeah.
Because to be a news hound, you've got to keep on the track of new topics and new events. But a firm could do that.
Definitely.
The principal in a firm, it should be highly qualified and competent. That's who the councils and the associations are made up of.
Yes.
People who are viewed as competent. So couldn't the profession, apart from the association and the council, practices could actually do that?
Definitely.
They appear extremely knowledgeable because they are involved in projects, their ears are to the ground, they can speak well, they're presentable, they've got a reputation, they've got a public face. I think it would be absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, they could just use social media perhaps to amplify that conversation.
Add it to your list.
Thank you.
Chris?
Just a comment. That's a majority of respondents from the 50 to 59 demographic, and you only had a 4% correct?
Yes.
Response rate. I think it's a rather large statement to make that the QSs have a bad social media marketing knowledge. And that was one statement.
All right. Yes.
So be careful making such a broad statement of such a small sample.
All right. Yeah. Okay. No.
I understand that.
No.
Okay. But the data's not there to say that.
It was only I had to go with the response I got.
Okay. Then the second part, because your title is the effective use and implementation of social media marketing.
Yes.
Did you look at the population who would likely be procuring the services of the QSs and the impact of this on the effective use and implementation of social media marketing?
I looked at it as a sort of as a firm's perspective and how they can use it to market their services.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But there needs to be a two-way street.
Yeah.
And if you're selling product,
Yes.
somebody has to buy it.
Yes.
If the environment in which you're selling product into is not engaging in a platform.
So, as in, are the clients on social media looking for?
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I just looked at the quantity surveying specifically. So I do understand.
So maybe you can try and find a bit of literature or something in that area before you do your final.
All right.
Just to put it in there,
Yeah.
see if there is actually
A difference.
Well, if there's no need, if nobody's looking at that space, then why would you do it?
Fair enough.
You're a young guy, that's your domain that you live in.
Yes.
QSs in a
As
I'm not
seen.
saying
Yeah, no.
it's like that, I'm just asking the question.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, to cut you short there. Yes, last comment.
I will cut it short. Don't be too hard on the senior people. We were born then, so we like living in the past.
That was just information that I was supposed to.
All right, thank you, Josh.
Thank you very much.